Okay, moving along. First of all, I was supplied a crappy DVR. We're moving on to the DVR here that I got from Time Warner. It's an ARRIS or ARRIS, and it's really no good. The ARRIS DVR that I got from Time Warner was a part of this $89 a month deal with the phone, which I never wanted. But the telemarketer who called me and signed me up on that deal did not reveal, I feel intentionally, she was told not to, that there's a $10 extra fee per month for actually using that DVR to record actual TV programs. That's BS. That's a hidden fee. That's the epitome of a hidden fee. That shouldn't have happened. I later called and got on the good side of a good-natured CS customer service rep from Time Warner, and she did put me on hold for 10 full minutes. But when she came back, my bill was actually at $2 less per month. She had removed that $10 fee. She went back and deleted the fee from the 2 months that I paid it already. And she actually gave me Encore and Epic, which is not great. There's more and more Encore TV shows like Hulu does, but still not bad for a CS tech. Not the best, but she still did really well by me, and I told her so. Telemarketer, though, did not even realize what was available in my area until the end of her call to me, her cold call. So my actual first bill, and so my first two bills to Time Warner, ended up being $117 a month, and that has a lot more to do with state fees and taxes that the FCC is slowly allowed to creep in than anything else. So instead of $89 a month, I was paying $117. 10 of that was the unjustified DVR usage bill, which if you're going to say in the deal, hey, you get a DVR with it, then you can't sneak in a hidden fee to use that DVR. I'm just saying, I don't think. The hardware. Their current hardware is crappy at best. To get the deal, you have to agree with their ridiculously useless phone service. I have cell phones, we all have those, we don't need that. More often than not, they're not including batteries with these stupid telephony modems. So if your power goes down, you don't even get telephone calls out. So what's the use? I mean, a lot more often, they're saying that the modems never worked in a power outage anyway. So they really are in sort of a transitional time period, the corporation, as far as the hardware they're using. Whereas Dish, a company with substandard practices at best, reportedly like Time Warner, has Hopper. This is a world-class device. I know I had it in my house. I stopped building home theaters after I saw what the Hopper would do, because home theater computers couldn't scratch the surface of what a Hopper can do. It could record 7 different TV channels at once with, if you jump in on their stupid Primetime app, which I didn't. The Primetime app involved Primetime TV on all the major networks, which I never watched. So you could watch one channel or two with the picture-in-picture. There's virtually nothing it couldn't do that I wanted it to do. It was great. I could record 3 programs while watching a 4th. Everything about the Hopper was cool. The stuff that Time Warner is using, by comparison, is just crappy. So one thing I noticed about getting the telephone hooked up to the telephony modem or gateway that Time Warner provided was that within an hour of hooking up the phone, I began receiving telemarketing calls, some of which were asking by name for the previous owner of that phone number. This is something Time Warner users must consider when accepting phone service from them. And I think Time Warner needs to consider it as well. How valuable is phone service when the phone numbers that you're doling out have gone through anybody's house recently, and customers are signing on for things they may never know. You may suddenly encounter calls all hours of day and night because the previous owner of that phone number owes a used car debt or a home loan or something like that, and default on a loan. This is something that people need to consider more than ever when hooking up or signing up for Time Warner. Again, on the hardware, The gateway that I got from Time Warner is the UB. I got a UB gateway, the UB DVW3201B. The model number, and basically it was the worst gateway I've ever seen. I've seen gateways, I've owned them, I've had them from Time Warner before, and it was way too sophisticated for home use, and there were actually settings on it that I never got to. It never allowed my home security DVR cameras outside my home network. I have a friend across town who did get his to do that, but he has a different DVR which I suspect uses a different set of ports to forward its video through, and also he possibly got a better third tier tech from Time Warner on the phone who automatically set his up over the internet for him. Whereas I got a guy who sounded great. I liked talking with him. Talked with him for about an hour, but I actually did know from the beginning more than he did based on what I'd had to learn recently about that gateway. So that's another thing. Time Warner is not really, there may be, now this may vary. Certain regions you may have a third tier tech you ask for by name, but in this region, I'm in Kentucky. I got a guy who was good, who was nice, he was friendly, he was good at what he did, but he didn't know as much about the hardware as I did, and it's his job to do it. They're not training their people, and I think a home security DVR is something that people are buying more and more, and I think they should be training them up to do this. You have UPS packages getting stolen off front porches. You have a lot of home security issues that are caught. People are catching thieves more and more by having their own devices. Time Warner is a huge corporation. It needs to be up on that and training people to and buying hardware for their customers that will allow those things to go through, because that's just something that should go through, and there's no telling how many other people who have this same issue. I found tons on forums, including Time Warner's forum, who had helpful suggestions that never worked for me, ever. Some of them reportedly worked for other people, but overall, many of those people reported that, yeah, it worked for a while, but then Time Warner sent a firmware update to that gateway, because then, you know, again, it's a Time Warner owned gateway. They're allowed to provision, control your internet through it, so they do. And the firmware updates can come, or just rebooting the firmware, the same firmware version, they can reinstall it and change over those settings again, making these things not work in less than an hour, on the hour. Alright, I'm going to move on down here. Ah, yes, the service. Now here I am at the service issues. Initially I signed up for the straight $89 deal with no additional devices like mini boxes, which I have over my right shoulder here. Now, I went back later and got a couple. But I didn't get any additional devices like mini boxes. That was to ensure I didn't see too many surprises in the billing at once, because this usually happens with cable billing. You get the surprises. No matter how big or small they are, there's always a surprise. Although I still feel this was the right choice. I knew I had some additional rooms in my house, like the one I'm in right now, where I'd like to watch TV occasionally, but at the time, no surprises. I was going to stream it. Their Time Warner TV, which is TWC TV. It's available on app form or through a browser. Usually in this room, I was planning on streaming it in a little window on this very PC on a browser. Now I learned later on in another room that at least on one computer, and it was a gamer laptop. This is an Alienware laptop. Streaming was looking weird. And of course I've heard about throttling. We've all heard about this recently over the past year. We're going to encounter streaming issues because the companies offering streaming can't afford basically the servers, and everybody's trying to make everybody else pay for the services you signed up for. Anyway, maybe they should hold off on signing us up for those services and hooking us on them. But basically, Time Warner, their own TV streaming was looking very digital. It was going digital. It was looking blitty. It was looking like Atari every once in a while. It was looking really bad 1 minute. I mean, it was like 15 seconds of high def version of a TV show, and then I would see it go to definitely SD, and then even lower and choppy. And I thought, it looks like they're throttling me. And these are off hours too. It'd be anywhere You know, it could be primetime TV viewing. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning. I just want to queue up something and try to get sleep. Hey, regardless, it was doing it. And I noticed it. I Googled for it. I found some Reddits. I found some other forums on Time Warner's forum that discussed it. It was an issue, and there was a workaround. I'll post a few of those links in my description of this video as well. And I noticed that people were getting around it on a similar success rate to everything else on the internet. Some did, some didn't. It was basically a Windows firewall workaround that was not illegal. It was something that wasn't even like barely legal. It was just a firewall setting that allowed you to stream your Time Warner videos directly from Time Warner servers instead of going through some of their sub-servers. Why was that happening in the first place? Why was my video, I called Time Warner about that briefly and I got nothing. I mentioned throttling and I got a lot of dead air, which is probably what they're telling the third tier techs to do. Don't mention it, don't admit it. Let's try to help these people one customer at a time as they complain, because otherwise they may not even notice. Well, I noticed it was such crappy service, it was crappy quality, that I did do the workaround and it didn't work. It worked for 10 minutes, just like some of the Reddit users reported, and then it went right back to doing that. So that's another issue that I encountered with their service, and that's on their TV. So when they're advertising in their big glossy ads, even the cards that come in your mailbox, they're offering web-based, the TWC TV. That includes the web-based or the web browser-based TV streaming directly from them. Well, they're actually not giving you the whole story. You're not going to get good TV server, even viewable TV. If they would just left it at the crappy quality instead of going up and down on the quality, it'd be more viewable, but you find it distracting. Okay, so they need to work on that, and they need to be more honest with people, and their ads need to reflect that too, and not in small print. They need to be better about streaming what they say they're going to do in their deals.